Hello everyone, it's Marla. I hope that you're doing well. Here to talk to you today about some astrology and what is happening with the planets. Major shifting. So I'm going to try to unpack what I have been getting today as far as downloads about the shifts, what it means for twin flames, and what it means for the collective energy. So I'm going to cover quite a span. I'm not just going to talk about, like, say, the eclipse that's happening in a few days, but we're going to start with Venus retrograde, and I'm going to try to work my way through to what I see has where this energy is more anchored, and that's when Venus goes direct on the day of the Libra full moon on, I think it's April 7th, but we'll get clarity about that in a moment, unless this video starts to seem too long and then I may have to break it up. So we're going to start with Venus retrograde. That's the first chart that I have up. And let me bring it in a little closer. I need to start with some basics here about what's happening. You can see that we have a big lineup of planets over here on the right-hand side of the chart. And those planets are in the sign of Pisces and Aries. And the fact that we have those planets in those two signs gives us a lot of information, because between those two signs is a major shift. First, we have the energy of Pisces. This is the last sign of the zodiac. And the zodiac tells a story. It starts with Aries, which is our birth. And through our evolution, we work through all the signs. We go back to Pisces. And Pisces is when we're ready to leave our body and go back to spirit. So Pisces is the spiritual realm. It's the non-tangible energy. It's ruled by Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces right now, but it's getting ready to move into Aries. That's going to be a major shift because Neptune is a very slow-moving planet. So it's been in Pisces for quite a while. I should have looked up the exact number of years it's been in Pisces. I'm just going to say it's been a good while. And we're going to feel the shift when Neptune goes into Aries. But I'm digressing here because I'm talking about this spiritual energy that is Pisces. Remember, with Neptune, things are elusive. The Neptunian energy is about being formless, not having boundaries. It flows. It's like water. This stands in contrast to Aries, because with Aries, things manifest. If we were to look at a chart, Aries represents the first house. And the first house starts with your ascendant in your chart. The ascendant represents the moment that your soul becomes physical. It's calculated by your moment of birth. So you're going from the spiritual, the soul is intangible, to suddenly your soul's in a body and now it's manifest, now it's materialized. And so that encapsulates kind of the energies here. We're going from the intangible to the tangible. That means it's like we're manifesting something. We're taking the spiritual and we're trying to make it solid. This means a couple things here. We're making the spiritual more real on earth in the sense that we're raising the energetic frequency on the planet. I shouldn't really say we're raising it because spirit's raising it. It's the energy, the universal energies that are flowing into the planet that are creating this shift. And we're just kind of along for the ride, and whether we can resist and we might have a real hard time, or we can just let go and we can flow with the energies and we'll have an easier time. But these are the energies that are coming in that's trying to create change on the material plane, if you will, through changing us, changing humanity. This is a higher spiritual timeline. It's a timeline shift. This is what we've been waiting for in many respects. We want more people to wake up. We want humanity to evolve. But also, we're trying to manifest our own things. And most light workers have been feeling a lot of frustration in the last couple of years because there's this sense, this inner knowing that all these great things are possible. The abundance that's there for us, the sense of purpose, the sense of direction. But it just seems like it's hanging on the edge, but it's not quite manifesting. And it's so frustrating. And I think for a lot of people, even what we've seen through 2024 and the beginning of 2025, sometimes it feels like you're going backwards and you feel like you might have made some progress maybe in 2023 in whatever you were building and even the early stages of 2024, but then things started to seem like they were going backwards, and things have been, it's almost like the energy has been getting thicker and stuck and not flowing. And so maybe your finances are stuck, for instance. Your purpose is stuck. You can't seem to quite get to the next level. So this energy over the next couple of months is wanting to help us break through and help this energy to flow a little better. Now, it might take a little longer than a couple of months, but I think once we have the eclipse and Venus and Mercury go direct again, things will begin to flow easier. Another area that's being affected here is our relationships. You know, I told you a few months ago, this was going to be the winter of transformation. And boy, has that come true. Since Mars has been in shadow, it's been constant transformation and evolution for most light workers, and a lot of triggers to work through. Has the planetary retrogrades are asking us to go back and heal so many things. Mars was working on our inner child healing the family issues so that we can feel stronger and more empowered, and our masculine energy is feeling that strength and empowerment. It was about getting rid of the old patterns so that we can align with new patterns. And that's continuing because it's like Mars has passed the baton to Venus, and now the feminine side is going back. And you know, I'm saying Mars, masculine, Venus, feminine, but it's both. I mean, a lot of what we're shifting right now is actually feminine blocks. Even the Mars retrograde was healing feminine blocks because it was our masculine energy was still creating walls to the feminine energy. So within ourselves, our inner masculine was not allowing our inner feminine to be free, and that was stifling our spiritual growth and our ability to manifest, because we need to be aligned with our creativity and our inspiration and our authenticity. And so our masculine needed to heal to allow the feminine to embody more of that. But again, we're now in Venus retrograde. A couple days we're going to be in Mercury retrograde. So the relationships are changing and our thoughts are changing. And these things have to change because of the new timeline. We cannot be in the old structures and the old programming and the old beliefs and the old relationship patterns and align with the new higher timeline. So one of the things that's changing that's really going to affect twins is I feel these planetary energies are beginning to anchor the new relationship template. And this is what twin flames have been here trying to embody. So we have the old ways of doing relationships, which was built on codependency. I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back. It was based on what can you bring me? The new relationship template is built on unconditional love. It's built on two people that are balanced within themselves, coming together in a relationship that supports each person to be their best self. It's no longer codependent. A lot of people have been breaking through the codependency very strongly in the past year, 2024. Remember, 2024 was a lot of karmic relationship changes, and a lot of that had to do with toxic relationships and codependent relationships and not tolerating those types of relationships anymore, which was paving the way to this. So instead of being codependent, two people come together and they're whole and they're confident in themselves and their energies support each other to be their best self. You know, you're able to give each other space, for instance, when space is needed to grow. There's not trying to control the other person. This is what the twin flame dynamic has been about. How do we change relationships from the old earth relationship to a new earth relationship? It has felt hard for people at times because you're so programmed in the old relationship of the codependency and this is the way relationships work. This is how you're supposed to act if you're in a relationship. If somebody cares about me, this is how they act. And so with the twins, those old expectations aren't fulfilled because it's been breaking down those belief structures in your mind. Energetically, we've been waiting for the masculine and feminine to energetically come into union. The planetary energies of the masculine and feminine coming in. They are still working out their own alignment, and we get our energy from those incoming energies. Hopefully that makes sense. But the divine masculine and feminine of the planetary energies are very close, I feel, to this unionized, whether you want to call it union, harmonized, balanced, equal states. That could happen this year. And when that happens, twins are going to see changes in their earthly relationships. Remember, we're going from Pisces to Aries, the intangible to the tangible. When we talk about the new timeline, and this is like a 5D timeline, what is a 5D timeline? Like, what does that mean? The 5D frequency is the frequency of love. Most people on Earth are not in the 5D frequency, even though they like to say that they are. They might be in the 5D frequency at times, but most people on the planet, even spiritual people, unless they're very highly evolved, are still in separation consciousness. They're not in love. They're stuck in the division, feeling separate from the people around you, feeling separate from your twin. I see a lot of twins struggling to even feel love for their twin because of their belief that maybe it's not going to happen, whatever. There could be a million reasons why that's happening. But to be in 5D means to be in the frequency of love. Therefore, that is union or unity if you're talking about a larger group. Too many times we get absorbed into the label twin flame, and that definition causes people to focus so much on the 3D when what they're missing is that the journey is really about love. Like, just take the label off of it. What is left? It's about love and moving into unconditional love, higher relationships, higher levels of consciousness. That is the true gift of the twin flame. We're also, during this time period, grounding that bridge between heaven and earth, which again is the connection between the spiritual realm and the material realm. Okay, so let's take a look at the astrology. Venus went retrograde on March 1st. I'm not going to talk too much about this chart, but I wanted to talk about the Sabian symbol for Venus. Venus stationed at 10 degrees of Aries. The Sabian is the president of the republic or the ruler of one's country. One of the things I would say about this Sabian is about being your own ruler, listening to your own inner voice. One of the interesting things, though, is that we had that meeting between Donald Trump and President Zelensky of the Ukraine the day before Venus went retrograde. So Venus was stationed on this degree at the time of that meeting. And we had these two rulers of a country kind of squaring off with each other. Just thought I'm not going to talk about that too much, but I thought it was an interesting thing to happen based on this Sabian symbol. And I think that, this video is going to focus on what this means for us personally, but I think we'll see some interesting things happening on the world stage as well over the next few weeks. So then we move on to the eclipse that is happening on Friday, March 14th. And this is a lunar eclipse in Virgo. So again, we have all of these planets lined up between Pisces and Aries. Now the moon's in Virgo, conjunct the south node, and the sun is in Pisces, conjunct the north node. Remember, what makes a full moon or new moon is an eclipse is the fact that they are near the nodal axis. But we have a lot of planets here because we have Neptune as well, and we have Saturn on the sun. The north node is in Pisces. So this is the area that's trying to expand, trying to grow. It's the spiritual energy. The south node is in Virgo with the moon. Full moons are when we have to release something. So what we're releasing is our resistance to this spiritual flow. Remember, think about Pisces as being water. It's the fish. It's you can't hold water in your hand. It just seeps through your fingers. That's what spiritual energy is like. Now, one of the things between Virgo and Pisces is that Virgo energy can be the inner critic, the negative inner voice. It represents guilt and shame that we're carrying, sometimes feeling like we're not enough, which leads to martyrdom or subservience in others. Those would be more negative traits of Virgo. And the way that we need to counter that is with the Pisces energy of self-forgiveness, of understanding nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, and we can be forgiven for those mistakes, and extending that forgiveness to ourselves and to others. So I think that eclipse is going to be a lot about that energy. It's also likely to do with purpose, especially if you're a healer or you're doing something in like the natural health field or something like that. But Virgo does rule like our day-to-day activities. So like procrastination might be something that you're clearing right now because you're preparing to bring in something new related to your purpose? Or how do you need to set things up? How do you need to manage your time to create this? But I think a lot of this has to do with healing feelings of unworthiness. I feel like this is being echoed in the conjunction between Black Moon Lilith and Asteroid Union. Lilith has a lot to do with our abandonment wound, especially the feminine energies abandonment wound. Remember, we all have feminine energy. But the feminine energy felt abandonment by God. And what we're really doing by trying to elevate to this higher consciousness timeline is find that unity with God again. Remember, the spiritual realm, we're trying to heal the separation from that. But because Lilith felt abandoned, there's feelings of unworthiness there. We're still needing to work through that. There's a lot of both feminine and masculine healing in this chart because Mars is also still square Chiron and actually tightening that square, getting closer together. And so that's going to bring up the masculine's feelings of abandonment. And I feel like it's really about seeing the abandonment that we do to each other and how that has led to all these feelings of separation, including feelings of separation from source energy. I mentioned this in another video recently too. We have this T-square between asteroid Karma opposing Pluto, and both of them are squaring Union and Black Moon Lilith. So there's a lot of clearing of our shadow self that has caused this feeling of separation. I'm going to say also like separation from yourself as well. And what I'm getting is like the word splintering, when our self splinters off, and like reclaiming that energy, bringing ourselves back into a state of wholeness. If we want to feel whole and in union and unity with those around us, we have to bring that wholeness to ourselves. Okay, let's take a look quick at Mercury. So Mercury is going retrograde on March 15th, the day after the eclipse. And Mercury is going retrograde on 9 degrees of Aries. So basically 1 degree off from where Venus went retrograde. And you can see that Venus and Mercury are still tightly together there. And the Sabian symbol for Mercury retrograde is a teacher gives new symbolic forms to traditional images. Some of the key words here are new dimensions, breaking old thought forms or behaviors, quantum science, innovation and recreation. I should say recreation. Finding new inspiration, being ahead of one's time, new age consciousness, ideas out of the past for the future, rewriting the book. Cautions would be rejecting old ideas because they're old instead of reforming them, throwing things of worth out without examining them, having little respect for things that are really worthwhile or traditional, sticking with the tried and true, thinking that no one will be interested in your ideas. I'm going to read you a little bit. I just want to mention this book is 360 Degrees of Wisdom by Linda Hill. She says, in this situation facing you, there's a need to analyze and perhaps rewrite what has been observed and learned in the traditional roles we live out. Things may need a new interpretation to bring them up to speed with today's thinking. Someone in this situation may have truly original ideas, but there's a possibility of holding these back, feeling it's all been done before. The message here is to allow yourself to be creative and look for modern answers, seeing things in a different light or from a different angle. Sometimes this requires one to be daring, to step outside the box, to be prepared Be prepared to take a different stance or look at things from a new and fresh perspective. Our perspective has been shifting so much. A lot of times I will see it as the difference between like a cube and a dodecahedron. You have many more sides, and you can just take like a dodecahedron, and you can just keep turning it, and it's like you see different things. You can be holding multiple perspectives at one time. For instance, you can be aware of someone that's holding an oppositional thought to your beliefs, or I should say an oppositional belief, and you can see their perspective and you can see your perspective. You can see those perspectives working together. You can see those perspectives working in opposition. Your mind isn't stuck in, I must protect my belief. This is how our mind has to shift in this time period, right? And I also think this is an interesting one because it talks about giving new symbolism to traditional images. And I think that when we've been in this polarization, one side is very traditional, the other side wants to completely break down tradition. And I think the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, where we still have to hold certain traditional ideas because those ideals are not broken. For instance, in America, we have our Constitution. Our Constitution is not broken, but maybe we need to rethink maybe our understanding about it or rethink how we're using it. So ultimately, what it represents is those two sides that are holding those oppositional views working together and trying to blend the ideas. That's what is needed. So we have Venus and Mercury going retrograde, days apart from each other, same sign, traveling together. And it's like they're both coming from Pisces, or both coming from the spiritual. They went into Aries and they started going in Aries, and then they realized, wait, we need more information, or we don't have this right. We need to go back. It's almost like they were, you move from the spiritual into the material, and it's very easy to get sucked into the material world and all the 3D realities. And it's like, no, wait, we can't get stuck here. We have to go back. We have to get the higher perspective of love. We can't forget that when we're trying to anchor that. So we have to go back. Venus, obviously, is the ruler of our relationships and our finances. So we can see how Venus is playing into it. Mercury here is like, we have to get our mind straight, our thoughts straight. Remember, your thoughts create your realities. So Mercury came into the tangible reality of Aries and then was like, wait, my thoughts are not aligned to my purpose here of anchoring these new energies. I need to go back. I need to converse with Neptune and the Sun and Saturn and the North Node so that I'm better prepared to move forward again. So this is our time to fully align ourselves with the frequency of love. So I want to talk about the first degree of Aries. Actually, I'm going to talk about the last degree of Pisces and the first degree of Aries. Now, this is something that I usually touch on this time of year because we have the equinox, and the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, or the winter equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere, is happening on March 20th. And that represents the sun shifting from Pisces to Aries. So I normally talk about the first degree of Aries because it actually shows that it's talking about manifestation. But let's stop for a minute and go back to the last degree of Pisces. And the Sabian symbol there is a majestic rock formation resembling a face, is idealized by a boy who takes it as his ideal of greatness. As he grows up, he begins to look like it. So key words here: concrete manifestation of one's ideals, enduring truths, the culmination of efforts, projections of ideal images, wanting a sense of immortality, defining one's fate through conscious manifestation. Cautions would be not being at all clear about whom one is or what one can be, becoming a screen for the projections of others' ideals, stony faces that show hardships of life, hardening of one's personality, idealizing others, therefore losing one's own identity. There were some things in there that stood out to me, actually, about twin flames, right? Like, if we're not clear about who we are when we start to come together with our twin, it's very easy to get lost in their energy and to fall back into codependence. So one of the reasons why I feel it seems to take a long time for twins to come together is you have to develop that inner strength, because the energy is like a magnet. It actually like pushes and pulls. And well, you probably witnessed when you first met your twin that you struggled being who you were. Maybe you were afraid to show them who you really were because there were these feelings of unworthiness. And you could feel that in the energy, and it creates distortions in the energy. So it's not about having to be perfect in order to be with your twin, but it's about being able to maintain your own energetic boundaries so you're not creating those distortions. But this Sabian is also about manifestation. And the boy who's idealizing this rock formation, right? He's thinking about it so much that he grows to look like it. He actually becomes it. And that can be a little bit like the twin dynamic too, because when you stay focused on it, and I'm not talking about an obsessive focus, but obviously the energy is always drawing your attention to the fact that it's there, that it begins to materialize through you. And it's important to keep in your mind what it is you want as the process is manifesting. That's this idealization, which I think twin flames wrongly take a lot of flack from other people or those not on the twin flame journey, even some that say they are on the twin flame journey, that they're too idealized. You're idealizing that person or that relationship too much. Well, you're manifesting it, you're creating it. So if you want to create the highest version of relationship, wouldn't you want it to be idealized? Or would you focus on all the stuff, that the old relationship stuff? No, you want somewhat of an idealized version because you want the highest version. Again, that's Neptunian and Piscean energy, the idealization, which people often take as a negative when it doesn't have to be a negative. There's positive things about it too. So then the first degree of Aries is a woman has risen out of the ocean. A seal is embracing her. By the way, if you don't know what the Sabian symbols are, there was an astrologer called Mark Jones, and he got together with a psychic. And so he put all the degrees of the zodiac on cards, and he would pull a card and he would ask the psychic what she sees. Now, she would not know. She wouldn't know what degree she was reading. And she would just tell him whatever she saw in her mind's eye. She had no idea this was the first degree of the zodiac, but it is all about that manifestation. Key words are cycles starting, beginnings, emergence into concrete manifestation, grounding one's energy, stepping between the sea and the shore. And remember, Pisces represents the water, like I said, the sea. Cautions would be using masculine power to overshadow emotions, refusing to move on, feeling held back by fears and old life patterns, falling into previous unsatisfactory conditions, dragging others backwards, and mobilizing fear of the unknown. So again, kind of goes with what I was saying. Falling back into unsatisfactory conditions. We don't want to do that. We want the highest possible option for us. And Venus and Mercury are going to help as they're crossing the Aries point 3 times. The Sun is going to be crossing the Aries point during this time frame, and also Neptune is going to be crossing the Aries point over this, I guess it's about a month. So lots of things being made tangible. Let's move on to the Aries solar eclipse on March 29th. So at this eclipse, there's Mercury on its second pass of the Aries 0 point, which I liken to the 0 point field. That's what it represents to me. Remember, when we're at the 0 point field, all possibilities are an option, as long as we're not limited by our mind and our beliefs. So Mercury is on the second pass, and Neptune is on that 30th degree, about the boy who idealizes the rock formation. Neptune is very close to shifting onto that first degree. And the solar eclipse is at 9 degrees of Aries. Again, 9 degrees. That's where Mercury went retrograde. It's also 1 degree off from where Venus went retrograde. And at the moment that Venus went retrograde, the moon was on 9 degrees of Aries. That is, a teacher gives new symbolic forms to traditional images. Things are changing. We're getting a new perspective because of the new frequencies. So look at this lineup. Saturn, North Node, Venus, Neptune, Mercury. Mercury will probably move into Pisces on that day. So all of these planets huddling up together. Now, Venus and Neptune, when they come together, they represent unconditional love. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus. So while Venus represents earthly love, Neptune represents divine love. And that's on the North Node. That's our direction. That's what we're here to embody. And yeah, Saturn is there as well. And Venus is going to be stationing on Saturn. And that's because love takes discipline. And Saturn is discipline. Saturn itself helps to ground things. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, Earth sign. And it's a very, I'm going to say, tangible, material energy. You need Saturn to materialize things, and Saturn plays into the timing of things. Saturn doesn't allow us to achieve things before we're ready. We have to do our Saturn lessons. We have to persevere and prove to Saturn that we can persevere before we get our mastery. But this energy of holding the vibration of love. That takes absolute dedication. That's not an easy thing to do on Earth. So whatever journey you're on spiritually, whether you're on a twin flame journey or some other journey, everybody that wants to elevate into the fifth dimensional frequencies needs to learn how to embody the frequency of love. I want to say that this doesn't mean that we're all suddenly going to wake up and find ourselves living in the 5D. This is the incoming universal energies, as I said, and we have to start aligning with them and embodying those energies. And it's a choice. We have a free will whether we want to embody those energies or not. But to embody that energy means clearing out the old. Hence why we need the determination and the perseverance. You can't be in the old and embody the new. So you're emptying your vessel and you're replacing it. Not unlike that Sabian symbol. Again, we're not throwing everything out. We're not throwing all traditional things out. There's a lot of traditional spiritual wisdom, for instance, that we've already gained. Some of it has been forgotten. Some of it hasn't even been. What I want to say is we've already been given the directions for this. You see I've got the asteroid Yeshua here in the chart. Yeshua has given us plenty of directions. We don't need to throw out his directions. We just might need to perceive them in a new way to get the keys that we need. I'm just looking at the Sabian symbols here. The Sabian symbol for the South Node at 27 degrees of Virgo is a bald-headed man in uniform has seized power. It's definitely something to watch for at this eclipse. Sounds like something that might happen on the world stage. So Union's energy at this eclipse is a man alone in deep gloom, unnoticed, angels are coming to his aid. I love that one, especially for Union, because it can feel so separate right now. We can feel so disconnected from others and from humanity. And especially as light workers, you can look around and you may seem like you're the only one that's holding your beliefs in your social circle. But they're saying the angels are coming to the aid, and the angels are coming because of this frequency. And remember that with this union Black Moon Lilith conjunction that's happening, we were talking about feeling abandoned. And one of the ways that we heal the abandonment wound is by realizing that spirit is always there with us, and therefore we're never really alone. The problem is that we have this 3D mentality that if we can't see it, it's not real, or if we can't see it, it doesn't count. And that's some of the thinking that we need to change. Let's talk about these Sabian symbols in Pisces. Saturn's on the purging of the priesthood. Now, this is where Venus is going to be stationing on this same degree. Revealing the truth of people for who and what they are. Cutting people off, throwing things out that don't measure up. Dismissals. Being fired. Holes left where someone took up a lot of space. Caution, stressful battle over who's in charge. Blackmail. Something being revealed. Evicting people because they deceive, lie, or mislead, or just because they're not liked. Scapegoating. Corruption and scandal that threaten collapse. Cover up. So wow, lots of things here in this Sabian about things being revealed. what was hidden being revealed and how we might have some negative actions because of something like that happening on the world stage. The North Node is on a fertile garden under the full moon. Now it is a new moon, but the North Node is on the same degree for both of the full moons, the Virgo full moon and the Libra full moon. So this one is about fertility and things growing. Things are taking shape, and it's coming to be a time of harvest, which when we get to the Libra full moon, I think it is Saturn. Yeah, Saturn is on a new moon, reveals that it's time for people to go ahead with their different projects. This is one that we've talked about before because Neptune has been transiting over that one. So for me, this energy at these eclipses in retrograde is really about being love, becoming love. Not just having love for someone, but we need to become the frequency of love, embodiment. When we do that, then things are going to manifest for us so much quicker. There has been changes happening within our energetic field, especially our chakras. I've been feeling the chakras expanding. And over these weeks, we just have a lot of planets talking to each other. Because we got those planets in Pisces. They're also talking with Uranus. They're talking with Chiron. They're talking with Mars. They're talking with Union and Lilith. So lots and lots of planetary convergences. So we talked about making that bridge, materializing that bridge. And here's asteroid bridge at 24 degrees of Gemini. And it's beginning to come into a square with the North and South Node. And also Saturn. Remember, the South Node is our past, where we've been. The North Node is our future, where our growth is. We're bridging that. We're bridging that in ourselves, but we're also bridging it as a collective, as we find new ways of being, and we're grounding these new spiritual frequencies into the earth grid. And Saturn, as I said, is there to help make these things tangible. And Venus is going to be aspecting this bridge energy as well, because the bridge has to come through love. It can't come through any other energy. Certainly can't come through separation or hatred or even dislike or apathy. Everything that we're trying to do hinges on love. So Mercury goes direct on April 7th. I think it's actually like April 1st that Neptune goes into Aries. But don't quote me on that. It might be the last day of March, March 31st. But Mercury is stationing on a harvest moon illuminates the sky. A lot of these late degree Pisces, Sabian symbols, talk about manifestation in the sense of new moons and full moons and growing things and harvesting things, manifesting things. And yeah, at this time, this is when Saturn is on a new moon, reveals that it's time for people to go ahead with their different projects. Now, and that's very telling with Mercury stationing to go direct because, and so close to Saturn, because Saturn's giving us the okay now. Okay, you know what you need to do with your thoughts. You know how to think about this thing. Now I'm telling you to go ahead with your project now that you have it right. Now you can see that bridge is tighter in that T-square, and Mercury, Saturn, Venus all aspecting it. So this is going to be such a strong time for grounding that bridge. If you need kind of help and how to think about that, I do have a twin flame meditation for becoming the bridge. We also have a yod, or finger of God, with union has the apex. Uranus in Taurus has one arm of the sextile, and Venus, Saturn, Mercury, and the North Node has the other arm. This is showing us what we need to do about union. If you want union, you've got to change. You've got to change your thinking, and you have to reach for that frequency of love. You can't continue to maintain the idea of separation and expect to reach union. They're incompatible. That means like reframing how you think about the twin flame journey. Maybe even reframing the label twin flame and just changing it to love. And then we're going to wrap it up with the Libra full moon and Venus direct on April 12th. So those are happening on the same day. Venus goes direct at 24 degrees Pisces, conjunct Saturn. The purging of the priesthood also conjunct the North Node. And Venus is the ruler of this full moon, which is in her sign of Libra. Mars is ruling the sun, and Venus and Mars are in a nice trine with each other. What's really important about this is the moon is at 23 Libra, making an exact conjunction with asteroid union. And the sun, of course, is at 23 Aries, making an exact conjunction with Chiron. This is real healing. Healing of the abandonment wound of separation, healing relationships. And once again, we have a yod with Uranus and Saturn and Venus pointing to the moon union. Remember, the moon is our subconscious. And when we have full moons, we need to clear something out. So old relationship patterns that don't fit with union energy. By the way, I want to mention, if you were born from like 1966 through like 1971, then this Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde are going to be pretty pivotal for you because they're going to be aspecting your Chiron. So it could be bringing up personal healing for you of whatever Chiron represents for you, as well as, one thing we don't always talk about with Chiron. Chiron is our multidimensionality, and it's our ability to act as a healer. So we heal ourselves and then we learn how to heal others. So again, if you're born in those years, your Chiron is being activated. So besides healing, this might be a time where you're really leveling up in your sense of purpose. It's interesting because we do have those two yods that I mentioned, Saturn on one end and Uranus on the other, as they're in sextile with each other. And that, again, very much goes with that 9 degrees Aries Sabian of giving new symbolism to traditional forms, because Saturn is the traditional and Uranus is the new, the revolutionary. We also have a yod here for the divine masculine in all of us with Mars, sextiling the South Node and making a yod with Yeshua. So again, still clearing for the masculine things from the past, the karmic past, and their blocks to higher levels of consciousness and the embodiment of the masculine's Christ consciousness. Again, the masculine in all of us. There is no separation anymore. So to say, you can't really say one is holding one vibration and the other twin's holding the other vibration. You can't speak about it like that anymore because there's inner unity, at least very close to inner unity for a lot of people now, especially twins, right? We've had this harmonization of the union frequency, but that is going to just continue to expand as we move through these next several weeks. At the same time where we have this really strong energy of union and expansion in the divine love manifesting, we have asteroid Atlantis coming into that T-square with Pluto and Karma. And remember, the energies of Atlantis in many ways blocked, or they were the start of the feelings of separation. When Atlantis fell, we fell from our spiritual truth and our sense of connection with source, and it caused separation from our twin. And so we need to heal those karmic aspects. So the Sabian symbol for the moon and union is a third wing on the left side of a butterfly. Now the left side is the feminine side. Third wing means that there's some kind of imbalance. The third wing also represent, or I shouldn't say a third wing, but 3 represents the Trinity. Let's see what the key words are. Creative overbalance, bodily impairments, being light, flippant, and fluttering from thing to thing, oversensitivity, oddities, beautiful imperfections, one side being more perfect than the other. Cautions are unrealistic reliance on being different, obsession with strange things, feeling useless and out of place, flopping around and not getting anywhere, impatience. Let's read a little bit of this. I think it'll make more sense. Understanding and accepting fragility and differences in others can give us greater empathy for those who have difficulty operating efficiently in this world. Emotional breakdowns, fears, and phobias can be symptoms of being too sensitive, not necessarily as a fault, but as a response to an unforgiving and tough world. When the transformation into full potential occurs, it's a wonderful thing, but you may feel you are unnaturally developed in the emotive, intuitive realms. Instinct may be swapping logic, and while this can be very creative, it would be a good idea to try to regain some balance. This can point to threesomes of some kind, just as threesomes are considered to be an imbalanced relationship. A third wing can imply imbalance and an inability to get anywhere. Okay. So lots of things in there, right? First of all, I think how it was talking about understanding the fragility in others and having empathy is going to be important, okay? This is going to be a difficult time for people. A lot of people are already keyed up. They're fearful. They're angry. They don't know where to turn. Now they're getting crunched by the higher frequencies coming in. And we have eclipses and we have planetary retrogrades. So a lot of people, and I'm not necessarily talking about spiritual people, but those that are just awakening or aren't awakening yet, they're struggling right now. And so this means we have to have empathy. At the same time, it's also saying that we can be too intuitive, too empathic, too sensitive, which would be the feminine energy. We have all this Piscean energy. Like I said, the left side represents the feminine. So we need to make sure that our feminine stays in balance with the masculine at this time, that we stay grounded, and that we don't get lost. The sun and Chiron are on an open window in a net curtain blowing into the shape of a cornucopia. If you've never heard that word before, some of you don't have English as your first language. A cornucopia is a horn of plenty, or a horn filled with like fruits and nuts, things like that. It represents the harvest energies. So I wanted to mention this one because this is, again, talking about manifestation. And even though it's like a net curtain, right? The intangible, it's blowing into this shape. So it's reminding us that even if things aren't fully manifested for you right now, whether that's in your financial realm, your purpose, or your relationships with your twin or with anybody else, that doesn't mean that it's not coming or that it isn't happening. We have to be patient. We have to be determined and know that this is the shift that we've been waiting for in order to create that level of abundance and to bring in this new relationship template. I want to leave you with this thought, because we've talked about this difference between Pisces and Aries and how we're manifesting and shifting things into this reality. You must put your twin flame journey into two categories. Many of you have received confirmation that you will experience a physical relationship and purpose with your counterpart, which is the Aries energy. But also, and even more importantly, you chose this path to love. And what is love other than higher consciousness? Pisces. You may choose never to reunite with your counterpart, but to turn away from love or let pain in this twin flame situation turn you cold, hard, and angry would be a travesty of your reason for experiencing this path. So don't just focus on the relationship at this time, because everything is telling you that it's the spiritual energy that matters. And I try to emphasize this in every single video that I do. It's not because I want you to give up on the tangible, but I'm trying to give you the secrets to making it tangible. And it's about working with the spiritual energies to get it to materialize. You have to align with the spiritual energy first, because it's all about trust, faith, and perseverance. But too many people on the journey, and this doesn't mean that they can't change and that they won't change as these higher frequencies come in, but they've let this journey make them bitter, and it's defeating the whole purpose of why they are here. And the bitterness comes when we're stuck in the mental energy. It doesn't let us embody love. So this is everything that's taking shape right now. And we can continue to resist, and it's just going to be a harder struggle. Or we can give in, and we can go with the flow, and we can just allow the energy to do the work. And we just have to be able to move where the energy is wanting us to move. Anyways, this is super long. Thank you so much for listening. Full moon and new moon blessings. Enjoy the retrogrades. Make sure you have plenty of time to rest and to think and to embody these transformations. Sending you all love.